how we stand and how we sit and how we move obviously affects also how we feel, both physically and mentally. And to learn about the influence of our posture and how to improve our posture, I'm talking today to Olivier Girard, I hope I pronounce it right, who's also known as the posture guru. Olivier is an internationally recognized expert in posture, ergonomics, and muscle, this is a tongue breaker for me, musculoskeletal disorder. He's the author of the Posture Manual, a book that teaches good posture in daily practice, makes ergonomics easy to understand, and offers a full posture therapy program for over 3 months, which fixes poor posture problems or poor posture inflicted problems. Olivier, thanks so much for being here today. We're both standing, so I think we're doing something right with the recording.
Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Yes. Olivier, to kick off, my first question would be, and we talked about it previously shortly, what got you interested and what got you focused on human posture? What is the story and how did you get so deeply involved?
I think the story says a lot about the personality. I mean, I started as a mechanical engineer, yes. And in Germany, you choose your fields, you can specialize yourself. And as everybody was saying, don't specialize yourself in ergonomics because the teacher is crazy and he hates the French people and he will sack you. I thought, okay, that's a good challenge. I'm going to do that. Yeah. So that's how I got involved in ergonomics at first, just for the challenge. And actually, I fell in love with ergonomics. And ergonomics is not posture yet. Ergonomics is about fixing everything which is outside of your body. That yes. means the tools that you use or the organization of your work or your environment in the terms of lighting and all that. And then I moved to the Netherlands, where you are. Yeah. And there, when people were calling me for help, I realized two things. Thing number one is they were always calling me because they had a problem. And I had strictly no tool to analyze this problem, it's not because you have forearm pain that you have a problem in the forearm. It can radiate from somewhere else, but I was not equipped to understand that. Yeah. And number two is, as an ergonomist, I deal with everything which is outside of your body. So I could adjust your chair, your desk, and actually I would have been doing my job well if I leave you slouching on your well-adjusted chair. Which is kind of schizophrenic because you know that you have done half the job. But again, I was not equipped to deal with human behavior. Yeah. And that led me to the field of posture therapy, which is the great complement to ergonomics, one dealing with what happens outside of your body, the other one dealing with what happens inside or with your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how many years have you been doing this now?
Oh. Okay, I've
including the
ergonomics I think ergonomics, my diploma was in 2004, and I started to get interested in posture in 2006 and 2007. And then, it was a long trajectory, which will end up with me probably, you learn every day. Yeah. But say I've been seriously involved in posture since 2006.
Yeah, it's interesting. Hey, I mentioned in my introduction already about energy and well-being. Could you share a bit more on how our posture and our body posture and perhaps also our ergonomics affects our energy levels and our state of well-being?
Okay, we'll start with posture, understanding what posture is. Posture is what you do, consciously or not, with each muscle and joint of your body. So, this is a standing posture. This is a different standing posture because I bent my elbow. Yeah. Okay. So posture changes actually every microsecond of our life. Yeah. So it's really this idea of how we use the body, and how we use the body is determined by many things. Many of these things could belong to the field of ergonomics. I mean, if you have a standing desk, your posture is different than if you have a sitting desk. Yes. So your hardware will influence your posture, but not only, your psyche will also influence your posture. Yes. Because you know that if you're a bit sad, a bit depressed, a bit worried, you're going to tend to be more round shouldered. There will be more gravity on your shoulders than yesterday. So psyche will influence posture, but that goes the other way around also.
I was going to say, correct. Vice versa.
Because look, when I'm in such a posture, well, number one, my lungs are folded, so I have less air, therefore less oxygen, therefore less energy. And that will reflect in my mood and everything. But it will also reflect in my body language, i.e. in my relationship to others. and the relationship to others will in turn impact my psyche. And there have been studies done, especially on students and things, that show that, you know, students who keep moving on their chair and things out of discomfort, for example, are less engaged in the course and everything. And conversely, we observe that if you have a good posture, a strong posture, you're, let's say, less risk adverse, more entrepreneurial, more daring to speak out and all that. So there's, you know, it's kind of a cycle. I don't know if it's a vicious cycle or a virtuous cycle, but there's this cycle, and there's this intimate relationship that has many aspects between the physical aspects of what you do with your body and the psyche.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, and it makes a ton of sense. And like you said, it's a two-way street. Our posture affects our psyche and vice versa.
Correct.
And I think in many cases, we don't have a conscious awareness of it. Also, how
that is actually one of the determinants. I mean, there are many things that we are not aware of. There are tons of them that we can become aware of, but you have to be aware that there's always a certain amount of things that you will do automatically. But that's okay. You know, the body has a certain resilience. We're not looking for the perfect posture, because that would mean that every second of your life, whatever you do, you use your body perfectly well. It's completely unrealistic. Yeah. But the body can cope with a certain amount of imperfection. Yeah. And therefore, we're just trying to improve the way we do things so that the body stays in balance between what we ask from it and how we relieve the strain on it.
Yeah, that's interesting. One thing that struck me, both in your book and on your website, you mentioned that it's not about standing up straight or sitting with a straight back or pulling the shoulders back or bending the knees when you go down. Does that mean that this is, because this is the advice that we get when typically when we learn about our posture, does it mean that this age-old advice is wrong, and what should we practice instead?
Well, the thing is, you know, and this is what I think is the beauty of Mensendick therapy, which is taught in the Netherlands and somewhere else in Northern Europe. Is it tries to really understand what is the behavioral impact of using this or that word or this or that concept. And indeed, I mean, you have mentioned the three biggest misconceptions that we all have on posture, because we have heard it all our life. But look, if you tell to someone stand up straight, you will always have this, you know, chest out, hollow back, which is harmful. Pull your shoulders back is going to do this, neck strain, and bend your knees. Well, that's okay until 90 degrees, but then you mess up your posture actually when you go below 90 degrees. So I know all these are misconceptions or partially misconceptions. And well, they are, say, also shortcuts to, you know, it's much easier to say to someone, sit up straight. I mean, it's 3 words, rather than explain how to sit properly. What we should do on it now is a complex thing. I think there are 2 different scenarios. Scenario number 1 is you're lucky enough to have a baby and to start from scratch. When you have a lucky baby and you start from scratch, a big part of the job is to make sure that he or she does not develop unhealthy habits. Yeah, babies do intuitively quite well, although, and this is difficult to control, we make them involved in unhealthy environments. You know, we're not meant to have couches, chairs, and this kind of stuff. So we try to do as good as possible. But for example, I've seriously tuned the baby chair of my 16-month-old son. You know, it's it's like an old car on which you put all kind of accessories, but that works in terms of having a proper posture. So one is trying to be aware of the match between the environment that we give the baby and the fact that he's a baby. But next to that, it's true that babies will also not always develop the right habits, because 1, they will look at you, but 2, they also have to deal with challenges. The head of a baby is a massive thing. You know? Hence
disproportionately big.
It's disproportionately big. And therefore, when your baby is on a screen, you know, that the head will pull much stronger. But that leads them to do strange things also. I was very, you know, I practice Sistema, which is martial arts. So I was learning about ground fighting and things like this. And I taught that to my baby from when he was 3-4 months old. And what was very funny is, whereas in Systema we learned, and in posture, we start with the legs, the baby was systematically starting with his head, because the head was so heavy that it was much more effective for him to do things the other way around. So you have to say, beware the differences between the babies and adults, and see where for example, my baby at the moment is having one foot, left one, that goes really quite sideways. So this is something that I'm keeping an eye on, because this is not due to the fact that he's a baby. It could become a bad habit. You know, that's the type of thing that you can do with a baby. Then when you have an adult, it's another story, because when you have an adult, it's about correcting bad habits. And correcting bad habits is probably one of the most annoying things and most difficult things that we can find. Therefore, you know, well, when I was a student, I was always said that my behavior was unethical, that I was not allowed to do things like this. I select my clients. I don't take everybody. To work with me, you need to be motivated enough, you know, because otherwise it will not work, and it's waste of your time, of your money, and of my time. So, you know, the first thing you need to do with adults is make sure that they're motivated enough. If they are not, forget about it, don't even start. Wait until they have enough pain or enough motivation to do a proper job. And then to structure the work, I think you have to be aware that adults, when they, or even children, when they want to change their habits, they always weigh the pros and the cons. You know, what will it cost me to change my habit? Well, how will it benefit me? And your job as a coach is to make sure that the perceived cost is lower than the perceived benefits. So you have to have a simple and structured approach, but also to emphasize greatly the benefits that you feel. So, you know, there's a bit of psychology in there, and say to reduce the cost. And that's bringing me to the question that you were giving. I have developed what I call a universal framework that you have seen in the book, which is these 3 rules of posture. You know, I've summarized how posture works, 90% of the posture, because rule number 4 would bring me to 100%. So with, say, only 3 rules, I can explain 90% of the postural deviations that are common to everybody, whatever the jobs and everything. And this is a typical initiative to reduce the perceived cost of changing. You know, it's not a complex thing that you have a thick catalog to learn about how I do this. You just have to tune your mind and understand these 3 rules and be able to observe them. And if you know the 3 rules, you can correct by yourself. So, you know, it's about finding empowering frameworks and positioning yourself really at the same level as your client, as a coach, and not above him as the therapist who knows and do what I say. No, it's a completely different paradigm. And I think this is the key between good coaches and bad coaches, is those who stand above you versus those who stand at your level.
Yeah, I actually had a question about the 3 rules of posture, because as you say, it helps us understand our bodies better. Could you please elaborate, give us the quick summary of what this does and how it can improve our posture?
Yeah, sure, pleasure. I'll quickly go through the 3 rules, and you'll see. Rule 1 speaks about your back. And well, I just get my vertebra with me, so that will be even better. You see, in rule 1, we say, well, look, when your body is round and compressed, what we can call slouched, what happens on your discs is this. This is called the disc hernia. You see, poof. You need really round and compression to get that. But it's only one of the effects, because the other effect of round and compressed is that it will push your head forward, i.e. forward head posture, which is the mother of all neck pains and headaches. Plus it will compress your lungs. Okay. So rule 1A says, look, when you do something frequent, dangerous, or prolonged, you don't really want to have your back slouched. 1B says, yeah, okay, right. But you don't want your back to be hollow either, because when your back is hollow, look, I'm putting pressure now on the intervertebral cartilage, and this is going to wear it off quicker than it should. Which is speeding up. It's speeding up the pace of osteoarthritis. We're all going to have osteoarthritis. Question is when and how severe. The other thing that a hollow back does is that it contracts your back muscles, And if they remain contracted, because hollow back is your habit, well, a muscle that remains contracted becomes painful. Yeah. And the third effect is not super sexy of a hollow back, is that when your back is hollow like this, your lower back, your pelvic floor muscles are super relaxed. So if you combine that with weightlifting, such as in many CrossFit practices, well, the result is incontinence. Yeah. So you don't really want either, that's 1B, to have your back hollow.
Yeah.
And 1C is, well, look, we can also look at you from the front and observe that we don't want your back to be twisted either. Twisted means either flexed, flexed sideways, which is like a hollow back, but one side more than the other, or it means rotation.
Yeah.
And both will have this asymmetric effect both on the joints and the muscles. But what the repetitive torsions will also have is they will wear off the outer part of the disc, the wall. And if the wall is weaker, well, the inside leaks out easier. And that is an increased chance of disc hernia. And the degeneration of the wall itself is called discopathy. Yeah. So rule 1 says, look, whenever you do something frequent, prolonged, or dangerous, your back should be neither slouched, nor hollow, nor twisted. And the $1 million question with which we started is, okay, what's left? You know? And this is when people tell you what's left is stand up straight. And this is when you have to make them observe that if you tell to someone stand up straight, you get that as a result. And this is the trick. We need to find a concept that does not bring people into the wrong direction. And the concept that I have, and this is purely a coaching trick, is to use the concept of a flat back. I'm going to lower the cam so that you see that here. Yeah. Because you see, here I see that my back is hollow. Here I see that it's round, and in between the two, I can feel that here is flat. But that doesn't mean I don't have any curvature anymore in my back. You see, it's not a plank, it's not rigid. It's just that I can keep this curvature, whatever I do with my back. So it's a matter of control between here and here. And the reason why many, in particular physical therapists, are afraid about flat back, talking about a flat back, is that it is true that some people have their back as a plank, what we call flat back, and this can be pathological. But you see, there's a difference between what you have to tell to your brains for reaching a proper result and what you would observe with someone who has his back as a plank. You know, thinking, oh, I'm going to go flat back doesn't make your back as a plank.
I think, no, I was going to ask because I have that a little bit. I have a little bit of a hollow back, I've noticed. And when I'm aware of it, actually, it's when I activate my glutes, and then it becomes more straight. And then also the abs do more, have a less rounded abdomen.
This is correct. There's a small confusion between cause and consequence when you do that. Look, I stand like bad, hollow back and everything. And look, now I'm going to activate my glute and my abs. Glutes, abs. Am I standing better? Not at all. You know, I just activated my muscles.
Yeah.
So actually, what the activation of the muscles is not the cause of a better posture. It is the consequence of the better posture.
Yeah.
When you speak posture, you have to talk about the skeletons, the joints. It's I push my pelvis back and I bring it back inwards. Yeah. And when I do that, I observe as a consequence that my glutes and lower abs are engaged. Yeah. But I could have engaged these muscles without improving my posture. And this is what I had to be aware of.
Yeah, okay. So the order of things, it should be a signal that you start to feel your glutes activate and your abdomen, that your back is in the right.
It's more an indicator, a KPI, than a source of anything.
Yeah, good point. It's the
survey instinct. Yeah. So that was rule 1. Rule 2 is shorter. It just says, do you know anyone who has health issues because his or her neck is too relaxed? Yeah. Answer no. You know, and there's logic behind it, is that, you know, your neck is full of pipes. Therefore, if the neck is contracted, it's a bit like you try to water your garden with your foot on the hose. It doesn't go so well. Yeah. And therefore, what we try to do with the neck is just keep it relaxed so that the flow can go well, whether blood flow, lymphatic flow, or nervous flow.
So how do we do that to keep the neck relaxed? I imagine that's mostly the shoulders, right?
Correct. So you have to Okay, that was my short version. Now you're asking to go in depth. In depth, there are 9 factors that will create neck strain. 5 are head factors, 4 are elbow factors. Look, the 5 head factors are forward head posture, which I've already mentioned, because basically when your head is like this, it's a bit like you would come back from Albertine or the supermarket, holding your shopping bags like this, you know? There's this weight at a distance, which is super heavy for the neck muscles. The second thing, second neck factor is deep flexion for the same reason, you know, flexion more than 20 degrees projects your head forward, and for the upper trapezius, it's bloody heavy. Third factor, we actually already had it in rule 1, is neck extension. That's a hollow neck. And the 4 and 5 also, it's lateral flexion or rotation. We have talked about it. So these are 5 neck factors. Next to that, we have 4 elbow factors. Your arms are relaxed between 0 and 20 degrees to the side, to forward, and same to the side. And that you can easily feel, you know, you go like this, oh yeah, that's super relaxed. But if you want to go above this angle, you need to do something in terms of muscle activation, and you feel the difference. And from here, you feel, oh, bloody, it's heavy. So actually, 0, 20 degrees is okay, also forward, but the rest is strenuous. And therefore, the 4 elbow factors are flexion forward more than 20 degrees. To the side, what's called abduction, more than 20 degrees. Pulling them backwards, you know, like if I go like this, there's strain immediately in my neck, or raising the elbows, which raises the shoulders. 5 plus 4 is 9. And therefore, what we should do is look at what your activities and your posture do to your neck and reduce this thing. And take a simple example. When my pelvis is forward, you see that my head has been projected forward, and that actually my arms are behind me now. So whenever I'm gonna, I don't know, peel a carrot or type on my keyboard, I'll have to do all that with my elbows. That's it. I'm beyond 20 degrees. No, violation of rule 2.
But so then what about typing behind the computer? It's again for the elbows to be nicely relaxed next to the body.
You have to, you're allowed to have these 20 degrees. But you see that indeed the reach space, the comfortable reach space is not enormous. And this is why it's so tricky to have a big keyboard, a mouse, and a paper, and a pen, and your phone, and la la la. You cannot have everything in an ideal position. And this is why you should prioritize. Put where your hands are comfortable, what you use most. And the further to the side or forward you go, the less you use the device.
It makes a ton of sense actually when you say it, and I'm really happy that you do, because it kind of opens my eyes to some, because I have some things on the right in my shoulders and my neck, and it's this guy's fault, you know.
Especially as it tends to, you know. Okay. I have a fragile desk, so I had to buy that. And the good thing about this one is it's anti-slip. I chose it on that for that reason, and therefore it doesn't glide away. And once it's well positioned, it makes me sure that my mouse is not gliding far away. But it's true that if you don't have something like this, you can find yourself with your mouse there, and you haven't even realized it.
And would you say that if we stop doing that, our neck problems and our basically those pains, they will go away by just simply stopping those movements? Or do we have to do something else?
Well, the thing is, you know, if you stop doing this with your mouse, but the rest of the day you're like this with your belly forward, your head forward, and all that, you know, you have resolved the one factor that overloads the neck. But there are many others, because we're talking about cumulative disorders, meaning what you do with your body 24/7. And, you know, mouse work is max 20% of your life, you know. So there's still another 80%. And this is why actually the question is super relevant. That leads me to rule number 3, which is, okay, how do we do all that? With rule 1 and 2, we can diagnose the problem, but you don't know how to resolve it yet. I've not given you any solution. And the solution comes for rule number 3, which is observing that your body is something that stands on the ground and try to grow against gravity. In this sense, your body is exactly the same as a cathedral or a church or a tree or whatever. And what makes the stability of these things is that they have strong foundations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And therefore, rule number 3 just states that, okay, if you want to go against gravity, you need to build your body like a mason would build a house. You need to start in the foundations, stabilize the foundations, move one floor up, stabilize, etc. I say stabilize, not fix. You know, you have to control the floors, not to lock them. Yeah. And therefore, posture reconstruction, say, or posture re-education, always starts in your feet and moves one floor after the other, which is the order that I've followed in the posture manual.
Yeah.
And ideally, you start from easy postures, sitting down, to more difficult postures, standing, from static to dynamic, to no weight to carrying weight. So you go from simple to complex, from 2D to 3D, etc., etc. Yeah. And therefore, you know, to fix the neck issues, it's not just a matter of looking at what I do directly with my hand or with my eyes. It's also looking at what I cause indirectly to my neck by having lower floors that don't do their job.
Yeah.
This will pay the price of everything that you mess up in the lower floors.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. I have one question, and I think we're all guilty of this, which is being on our phones, you know, where everyone is like this all the time.
Well, now you recognize what the third neck factor that I cited, or the second one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. What can we do? What is the low-hanging fruit here for us to solve it? And actually, a question related to this, and I forgot what you called it. It's with the head forward. I have my dining table is behind here. I have a glass door there. And sometimes I can see myself sitting in the glass door in the reflection of the glass, and I see myself basically eating like this, you know? And always when I see it, I correct it, but we do this a lot.
I think one of the things you've got to be aware of is that as soon as your screen is small, there will automatically be a need for more visual attention, especially if what's on there is a bit captivating, such as a game or something, and that will draw your head forward. So you know, it's a plus minus, it's a thumb rule, you know. But what I say to people is, look, if desktop computer is is a level 1 risk, consider laptop to be 3 times as risky, and smartphones, laptops to be 6 times as risky. So 1 minute on this is the equivalent of 6 minutes on your desktop computer. Now, regarding your question on actually what is the plan of action? The plan of action is always the same. And this is another thing about reducing the cost versus increasing the benefits, you know, it's always the same. Step 1 is you have to ask yourself, did I really need to be stuck with that thing? You know, i.e., in other words, do you really need to install the notifications on your phone? If you don't have notifications, you don't have distraction, you don't look at your phone, end of the story. I mean, the radical thing would be, I don't even have a mobile phone, you know? So step 1 is, do you need to find yourself in this situation really? Okay. Then the next step is about saying, well, look, what works best, the next best, say, is work on the technical solutions. Technical solutions at this level can be, well, look, I told you that a computer is more ergonomic than this. So, you know, do I really need to answer to this mail right now? Or can I wait until I'm back in the office and I will do it from my desktop? You know, this is an emergency device. Is this email or answering to this email an emergency case? Not sure. But you could also think about, you know, like I have here, sorry, I'm activating the thing. I have a small keyboard that's connected to the computer, and that's also a technical measure. Well, or you can have a phone holder or blah, 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 or everything which is technical, which can be more or less effective, but think technical thing.
I have a question that comes up. Because basically what I hear you say is we should really try not to be on our phones, because even when we start to write a message, the whole posture goes,
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that this is an emergency device that should be kept for emergency things. And watching your Facebook news thread is not an emergency case.
Absolutely not.
You know? And that actually brings us to the third level of intervention, which is related to the time factor. Once you've done everything that you could technically, we're talking about time factor. And you know, next to not doing things, I mean, there are of course intersections between the different levels. But one of the things you can think about is, well, how can I shorten the time spent on my mobile phone? And there's a very easy trick for that. Is, you know, I never or rarely type messages. I always use WhatsApp or something equivalent and record the voice message. Why? Because when I have a voice message, I don't care about my posture. You know, I can record my voice like this, you know, in a neutral posture. Plus, it's much faster in terms of duration of exposure. And it's even much faster because my message is much clearer because it's a voice thing. If I make a joke, everybody understands it's a joke. Though there will be no misunderstandings, and therefore the communication being much more efficient, there's less time spent on the phone. You know?
Those are very valuable tips.
And level 4 is the less effective one, least effective one, sorry, is thinking about everything which is behavior related. Why is it? I mean, I'm a posture therapist and I'm telling you that working on behavior is not effective. You know, this is a bit schizophrenic. It's actually not, it doesn't want to be that, but it's just saying, you know, your habits are difficult to change. So, you know, do everything you can at technical and organizational level. And then those who will also do something at behavioral level will also benefit from it, but it's much more difficult to sustain it. And doing something at behavioral level is, for example, being aware of, oh, I'm on my mobile phone. I don't want my head to glide forward. I beware my posture when I'm on my mobile phone. Or I always be on my mobile whilst holding the mobile on the wall, for example. And then I make sure that, you know, my posture is not like this. It also includes what type of exercises do I do after using the mobile phone or during the day or in the evening to improve my posture or maintain a healthy
offset the damage.
Exactly. It's damage control, and it's damage control basically.
So we've talked about phone and maybe sitting at the dining table all hunched over. I imagine that our habits and our daily practices, and we've talked about this a little bit, they're probably the largest negative influence on our posture and thereby our well-being and also maybe our energy. What are the typical harmful habits with regard, for instance, in general, to sitting and standing that we're mostly not aware of? And I think already now what we talked about, what was an eye-opener for you to talk about the phone, I realized, or actually the 20%, I realized any message I type, everything is going into that phone. So also a smaller screen, sorry. So
I think there are 3 situations or 3 mechanical deviations that one should become aware of, which will be quite impactful for many. The first one is most people have no clue how much time, they spent. I'm going to put the camera like this so that you see better that. When you sit, most people spend too much time slouching on their chair. So, you know, this is way too frequent. This round back, which you can feel, you know, if you palpate your spine when you have a round back, you will feel that the tips of the vertebrae are protruding, are popping out. This is a sign of a round back. Okay. And most people have no idea of how much time they spent when they sit with a round back. So that's situation number 1. And conversely, most people have no clue how much time they spend standing with a hollow back. And this hollow back standing is not always, but often, usually maybe even, related to the fact that the pelvis is too far forward. You know, people have their belly out, i.e. they kind of stand on their lumbar vertebrae. So, you know, this is the other thing. I mean, the quick test is if you can see your belly button, you lost. You know, the other test is what I call the penguin test. The penguin test is, you know, when you stand, just do like the penguin, you know, but the honest penguin, the one that does this with his arms without doing anything in his shoulders. And if you do that and you happen to hit your buttocks or thighs, it means your pelvis is too far forward. And therefore you push your pelvis back. And just when your arms cross freely in front of your hip joints, then your pelvis is at the right front back place.
Okay.
And of course, here I can still have a hollow back or a flat back or everything. So we also, next to that, need to control the pelvic rotation.
Yeah.
But talking about pelvic rotation follows this thing of back falls.
Mm-hmm.
So, the second tip we could give to people is take the habit of doing the penguin test. And whenever you catch yourself with hitting your buttocks of your thighs, well, imagine that I kick you in the belly and you do, and you go like this with your pelvis back. And when you look more like a monkey, we're happy. But careful, I've said like a monkey, not like a depressed monkey. Yeah. So your breastbone is pointing, say, very slightly downwards. Yeah. But not completely downwards. It's not pointing here, it's pointing somewhere down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be tip number 2. And tip number 3, this is the most difficult one, is people have no clue how much time they spend with their head forward.
Yeah.
Head forward because they slouch, related to situation number 1.
Yeah.
Head forward because their pelvis is too far forward, related to situation number 2. Head forward because they're on their mobile phone. But the duration that most people have with their head forward is a clinical drama.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this, this head forward thing, it really, and now is the right time to speak about it, it really also compresses the lymphatic system and therefore reduces the immune function. You have a better immunity if your lymphatic system is decompressed. Therefore, having your head at the right place helps your immune system.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another very interesting point. Thanks a lot for addressing it. Olivier, I have another question, and it's a personal one. You said that you only want to help people who are motivated, and so you have this screening at the gate, so to speak, which I understand, and it makes total sense. But here's my father, who's 72, and he's increasingly, I don't see him all the time, but when I see him, I just see that, he becomes more slouching, the more time progresses. And I pointed out, but he doesn't care so much about it, it's not really an issue. So how can we, or what tips would you have for someone who doesn't really want to change? I'll definitely be asking him to watch this video, but what tips would you have, apart from the ones you shared, that might convince someone who's not really interested?
My first tip would be a tip to you and maybe your mom is don't harass him. Because the more you harass him, the more you're going to push him in the corner and more you're going to have a spring reaction. Unless you have a legal enforcement role, telling people what to do does not work in terms of coaching. Therefore, the best thing you can do is try and this is, that requires good commercial skills, but I'm sure you're able to do that. You have to make a link between something that motivates your dad and something you want him to change. Say, for example, if your dad doesn't care about neck pain, but he cares about charisma, well, here you go, never talk about health, talk about charisma, so you have to know him sufficiently well to see if by any chance there would be a relationship to be created, or to be highlighted. But the other thing I would do, and this is going back to my plan of action. Remember what I told you in my plan of action. My plan of action, I told you there are 4 steps, and the least effective one is the behavioral step. And the example of your dad is a very good example why it's the least effective. But, your dad also sits at the kitchen table, also sometimes maybe watches movies or the news or something, and So there's one thing you can do, which does not require any energy or something, is make sure that he has great ergonomics at home, that he has the best chairs, that he has lumbar support, that he has blah, 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 blah.
But you know what he does? He reads the newspaper on his phone. All the time he's on the tiny screen. So I know a big Actually, this is a big reason of, and he has the physical newspaper laying around, but for some reason he prefers this tiny screen.
It's correct, but you see, what you say is 100% correct, but you should remember what he told you about don't aim for perfection. You're going to get suicidal if you aim for perfection. You have to look for improvement. And what I'm saying is not that, of course, it would be better that he reads his news on something else than that. But it is better for him to read the news on that thing, on a chair which supports his pelvis well, rather than on a chair that does not support anything.
Sure, yeah.
So this is why I say, it's okay, improve what you can improve and be happy with what you have improved. And, it can, little by little, create interest because, a lot of people don't see the point, but then suddenly they say, hey, actually, this is quite comfortable, So that's number one is, do small improvements that does not require anything from him. And two, keep your ear open for any sign of discomfort or this which could mean that his mindset is starting to evolve. But there's a very high chance that he never cares. So be it, it's his responsibility.
Sure, no, that's true. But yeah, I appreciate all the pointers you're giving. They're extremely valuable, and I see, at least for myself, a lot of opportunities to improve my posture, thereby my health, even potentially my immune system, just through the way of holding my body.
And what you will observe is the more you get interested in posture and how to use your hand, the more your not only your charisma but your performance will increase in everything that you're doing. So you're a sporty guy, and what you will see is that when you hold your body super well, everything you do will be better. If you play tennis, you will serve faster. If you running like this versus running like this has a massive impact on your performance. So, when you learn really well how the body works and how biomechanics work, everything that you do gets better. And actually, I have tons of people that I've talked to from my YouTube channel, and I'm like, where the hell did you learn all this? They have such precise questions and things. I said, oh, it's easy. I've watched 200 videos. I was like, whoa. So, if you're really interested in it, there are means out there to learn about biomechanics. A lot of people have done it, to my surprise, on my YouTube, and there are surely other sources. But I mean, there's a lot that you can do in this.
Actually, a mental note that I made earlier when you talked about the 20% rule, I remember that while going through your YouTube content, I saw a video about the posture in the car while driving, so I haven't watched it yet, but I'll be sure to check that out because I drive quite a bit. And I'm sure that my seating could be optimized to some degree. I'm comfortable, but I'm going to reevaluate my seating in that sense.
Yeah, the unfair thing with driving is that you're surely tall as a Dutchman, and there's no car, or normal car at least, which is super comfortable for tall people to drive, because normally the taller you are, the higher you should sit. But in a car, there's this bloody ceiling that prevents you from sitting high. So actually, when I was a kid, I was dreaming one day of being 185 and being tall and things. Well, now I'm happy to be 173,
That's some benefits to that as well, definitely. Hey, you talked about time management, and also on your website, in your book, it's mentioned. What's the role of rest in having breaks on our posture, and what is good practice in this regard?
Yeah. Well, I think that I would cite two of them. Number one is that frequency matters much more than duration. And the simple analogy we can take is brushing your teeth. You brush your teeth normally 3 times a day, 3 minutes, 7 days a week. So 3 times 3 times 7 is 63. So you brush your teeth 63 minutes a week. But never would you brush your teeth from 2 to 3 p.m. every Saturday, and then you don't need to do anything for the week, Why? Because you know that to deal with accumulation, with overuse, you need frequency, not total duration. Well, the same goes for physical accumulation, physical overuse, i.e. what we care about is not about if you have a sit-stand desk, for example, sitting from Monday to Wednesday and standing Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
What we care about is sitting for no more than 30 minutes, standing for a bit, and sitting again for no more than 30 minutes, etc., etc., with the aim to have overall, over your day, a 50-50 balance between the two postures.
Yeah.
The same goes with the exercising. You know, on the YouTube, you can, if you type upper body reset Girard, my family name, you will see a very short exercise. It lasts only for 40 seconds and it can be done bit by bit.
Yeah.
The point of having a 40-second upper body, so say muscle relaxing exercise, is that you have no excuse to not do it super frequently. Your goal should be 15 times a day. And believe me, you have for this time. The one important skill in terms of time management is to be able to differentiate psychological breaks from physical breaks. You know, right now we are psychologically 120% at work. We're super focused, super sharp, super ta-ta-ta-ta. But physically we're free. We're doing nothing. Look, if I want to relax my wrists, what prevents me from keeping with the interview while doing the upper body reset? No, so I'm psychologically at work. Physically, I can be on a break. And you know, this ability to recognize when your body is on a break that you don't use and when it's really at work, this is the key to exercising super frequently without wasting any second of your time.
Yeah, it's great advice. Thanks a lot. Hey, last question, and I like to close with this question. I try to end every talk that I have with this question. What is a thing about posture? What question about posture didn't I ask, which I definitely should have asked? Is there something that I've overlooked?
Wow, that's a super good question. That's a super good question. And well, I mean, I'm thinking loud, but I think there's something that would be an interesting one is if I read your book 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and I do everything well, am I fine until the rest of my days? No, you won't, because you know, life is in the way and we all have trouble and we all break a toe and we all can have pain here and there and there. So the question is, are you, Olivier, pain-free? No, I'm not pain-free, but my pain is completely under control. I never have pain for more than 3 days.
Yeah.
So what we're really trying to be clear on is that we're teaching you the user manual of your body. I'm not giving you a pain-free lifetime guarantee. I'm guaranteeing you that we create a toolbox in which you're going to be able to dig for the right screwdriver when you recognize that a screw is in the wall, not where it should be.
Yeah.
You see? And this is the thing that you should not aim for. Usually what I say to people is don't aim for pain-free, aim for function-free. Yeah. What makes people sad and depressed and feeling disabled is when they cannot function anymore. Yeah. Pain is often manageable, but lack of function isn't. When people have really long-lasting health issues, what do they tell you about what they could do and that they cannot do anymore, or what they won't be able to ever do anymore? Pain is almost secondary. Yeah. So this is the message that I'd like to give to people is pain is not necessarily the best indicator. Even health professionals like me can have a stiff neck. Sure. But what we want is make sure that it doesn't become chronic neck pain, that we always manage what happens.
Yeah. Hey, Olivier, thanks so much. I really learned a lot, and I look forward to diving in deeper also with your book. And with my further research and write-up for this. I really appreciate it.
Many thanks for your time. It's a pleasure.
Yes, thanks so much. And I'll send you the updates when it's going live.
With a pleasure.
Yes, thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.